Hello everyone, welcome back for video 32 in this set. Preparing some lecture notes for a summer camp teaching game dev, and we're 32 videos in, so there's quite a bit going on. We just got up to our opponent, which is little aliens we're going to beat up, and this is part two of creating this character. We got up through the animation, so now we're ready for our script to run at the right time, and we need to know when that right time is. So if we walk up in front, the first part of it is if our character walks up to the front side of the alien, it's going to reach out and grab him. I have to turn this active. There we go. When the character gets close, it's going to reach out and try to grab him. And if it misses, then it'll go back to its just idling animation. Come over and grab him. Uh, and there's one other thing we want to do about these transitions. We want to get all the way to the end of the grab animation before we go back. We don't want to wait to like suddenly jump in the middle of something to get back. So on these transitions, just the two transitions out of the grab one, all the rest of them we find like normal. But when we finish the grab animation under mode, um, oh, maybe it's not under mode. No, oh yeah, it's up here. Sorry, not under mode. Keep mode to automatic. Under switch, right above mode, uh, instead of immediate, we can switch to the end. So that way it only moves from the grab animation back to the idle animation at the end of the grabbing animation. Same thing when we go from grabbing back to walking, we only want to be able to transition between those at the end of the grabbing animation. So that way we can get all the way through our animation though. If the alien successfully grabs our character, everything's going to pause, and that's where we'll go to the game end situation, which is uh, still off in the future. So that gets our animation set up, and we'll go put them in the script on when to switch to each one, which is going to happen whenever the character is standing right in front of our alien. So how are we going to know about that? And there's different ways. The easiest way is probably to just do a raycast. Look, if we start at the alien and look straight forward, is our character standing right here. So a raycast is like a laser pointer. It just shines a line straight out in some direction, and we can, unlike a laser pointer, we can define how far it is. Maybe in this case, we'll stick a laser pointer going 1 meter forward in a straight line, and if our character is standing right here, then we'll jump into the grab animation. So we can do that entirely in the script, or we can do it from here. If we add a child node, we can just add it in like a node like we've been doing. Okay, yeah. Search for Raycast 3D. It looked like something else was coming up there. I didn't see the 3D on the name. So find a Raycast 3D, and then this just shines a line. We can kind of see it here. It's going down the green axis, but you see that little blue line coming forward. Well, we want it going forward, so I guess I can switch it quickly and rotate around the x-axis. So rotate 90 degrees around the x. Oh, let's make that negative 90 degrees around the x. So see how we have that little stiff line coming straight forward. Probably don't want to shine it at his feet. We'll move it up about the center of the alien. And if our character comes in here, which might be a little bit close to we want to have it close enough for our alien to grab it. So he's idling. Oh, that's barely close. So I'll make it just a little bit shorter. So maybe the alien's got some long arms. So then maybe this one will come out. Where's the size out? So instead of, oh, actually, I don't even have to change that. Keep the default rotation. And instead of -1 in the y direction, We'll make that negative 0.75 in the z direction. Oh, well, now that's negative z. So positive 0.75. And that's something that happens a lot in game development. Our negative and positive signs change depending on what we're measuring. So that's negative x rotation puts us onto the positive z-axis. So watch out for little things like that. There's a lot of trial and error back and forth. So now if our character walks up here, then the alien's standing around or maybe even walking, and the character gets close enough, the alien's going to reach out and grab him. And that'll be the main point of our game. So now how do we tell this raycast to only look for the character? And that's what this little section right here is for, the collision mask. And what the collision mask does is it looks for a certain layer, which in Godot, they only put one thing labeled as layers, but in Unity and Unreal, you will have 3 different things labeled as layers. So you want to keep track of them. For raycasting and collisions, we want what's called a physics layer, which Godot only showed the physics layers. But there's also view layers, and view layers, things that the lower levels, we can define which things are in front of or behind other objects, hence the view in the name. And we also have sorting layers where we just define things up. Godot called the sorting layers groups, so which is a nice, useful name for it, just grouping them. But Unity and Unreal, you will have all 3 of them called layers. And the physics layer is the one that we would want to work with for collisions and interactions. So I'm going to come over here to the player. And notice right now the player is on layer 1, physical layer 1, and mask for layer 1. Everything has been on physical layer 1, which you can see bit 0. So there's not much data actually involved internally. There's way more in the words, right? It refers to a bit number, a single bit defines that. So there's way more in our script than actually runs through the processor at times. So that's another reason this is probably the most efficient way to do it, because we only need 1 bit to do it. So everything's on layer 1. So looking at layer 1's not going to help us. And masking is just, we can restrict it. So layer is the physical layer it's on where it can interact with. And masking sets it up so that we can basically hide all of the layers we're in, or some of the layers we're in, or show which layers we're in, to put that up. Hopefully that gave a good simplified explanation. So think of it as categorization. Layer is the physical one that we're on, the physical interaction layer, and we can be in lots of layers. And then masking is hiding them. So if we don't want to, we can be in physical layer 1, but act like we're in, say, physical layer 3. So let's set it up so that our character is also in physical layer 3, which you'll notice is called layer 3. It's not a very useful name, so let's update that real quick. And being able to customize the names is some functionality we do have in all of our game engines. So I'm going up to Project Settings, Project and Project Settings here in Godot. Same place we went to get our input map earlier, but this time we're going to layer names. Oh, I didn't mean to collapse that. Under layer names, you'll see the render layer. That's the masking, and the physics layer. We want the physics layer, navigation. There's, I guess we do have all 3 layers so that it's consistent with the other game engines, but in the inspector panel, Godot only put the physics layer. So layer 1's where everything's been going. That's sort of our default layer. I'll come down to layer 3 and give that the name player, just to make it easier to. So physics layer 3 is now called player. So I'll close that, and back over here on the player character, along with layer 1, I'll also put it on physics layer 3. and then mask it. So mask is which layers it's showing on. And for now, I can just turn it off of the masking layer 1 so that if we're looking for it, like with a raycast, we only need to look at uh, physical layer 3, which is conveniently named player now. So I'll save that. So just sort of a categorization thing. Which physical layer does it interact with? And then which of those layers can we see it on? So if we come back over to alien, well, everything's on layer 1. We don't want to detect everything. We only want to detect the things on layer 3, which is our player. And notice that the name for that showed up here. And you can see bit number 2. So it only takes a single bit to do it. So it's a very, very efficient way to look for our player. So now we'll be able to tell if the character's right in front of our alien by looking there. Let's do a quick check on that. So over in physics process, I'll just print that out. We'll just print, see the character. And we can do this by checking the collider. So if we need a reference to our raycast, so just like before, things we've seen, I'll click on it, hold control and drag over. Oh, whoops. If you do it without the control, if you just click and drag over, it gives the reference. And if you click and hold control and drag over, it should give us the whole thing we need. And I'm going to add in the data type, which if you want to, you can just put colon equals and it will infer the data type like a strictly typed language before it. So, oh, that's not a good name. I should rename that first. Let's just call this raycast. It's not like we have a lot of them to keep track of. So click, drag that in, and then we can just say if raycast dot get collider. So if the raycast sees anything, and the raycast is only looking at layer mask 3, and the only thing on layer mask 3 is the player. So basically that if it sees the player, if that does not equal null, then we'll print see you. And we'll just print out some words for now. Uh, if that works, then we'll come back and make sure that all works. So let's turn the output on, make sure that's clear so that we can see everything popping up in it, and give this give level 1, where we already brought our alien in, a test run. Oh, whoops. So putting the player only on mask 1, it no longer saw those. So turn that other mask back on so that it doesn't just exist on physical layer 1, it interacts with things on physical layer 1. Right, so now it's not falling through the landscape. There's our little alien. Uh-oh, it might be too high off the ground to see the character. Yep. Probably need to move him onto the ground or close to it. And sometimes in 3D, it looks like something's okay from the angle you're looking at, but then when you look a little bit closer, we'll add some we'll have him stand on the ground at some point. And our character gravity applies, so it's going to fall down right down on its own. All right, let's give that another try. All right, so we're not falling through the world. We need to be able to see the output here. Come over here and stand in front of our alien, and it sees us. So instead of just printing that out, we can just run that animation, run that grab animation, so that the alien reaches out and grabs us, and then goes back to the idling animation, which is things we've seen in our scripts before. And that was convenient. It went over by default, it opened to the first script we wrote, which is the one we need to look at. So we can just refer to our animation tree, which that is going to be, the logic's the same, but it's different syntax in every end. And for Godot, the syntax is just that the animation tree is handled as a dictionary in the script, and the key for the dictionary is the file path to where that Boolean controlling our animation is held. So in the alien script, we'll need a reference to our animation tree. Come over here. Yeah, I'll just keep it named like it is. So I'll click and hold control and drag over. And I'm going to add a little semicolon in so that it's a strictly typed language because those do run faster. So in game development, we probably want that semicolon in there so it runs a little bit faster. So instead of printing that out, we'll just access that animation tree and set some key equal to true. Otherwise, if our character is not standing right in front of the alien, we'll set another key equal to true. And we can grab those by going to the animation tree and the hierarchy. And in the inspector under parameters and conditions, we can just right click and copy the property path. Actually, this is the one, if we just drag it over, it gives us a string. If we copy it, it doesn't include the quote marks. But yeah, since that's probably the most common place we're going to use it, that's where it's set up to drag over. And eventually this else block will decide whether we should go back to walking or idling, but we can get to that later. Right now, our character doesn't move anyway, so we just need the idle animation. So as soon as it starts, it's going to jump right to the idle animation. It'll stand there idling, and if the alien notices the character standing in front of it, he's going to grab him. And when the character is no longer standing there, well, eventually then this will go to the end of, if he successfully grabs him, this will go to the game over setting. That's still off in the future. And if the character is not standing right in front of it, it'll go back to the idling animation. So let's check and see if that much works. Could run. Why is it taking so long? Okay, I don't know why that was taking so long. Let me try that again. It usually comes up pretty quick. Oh, wait, I know why that's taking so long. Um, it's actually working fine. We're looking at the alien tab, so it's running the alien, but there's no camera or anything. There's no camera or light or anything, so there's nothing to see and no way to see it. So we need to run our level, not the object. There we go. That worked a little bit quicker. So I'll turn over here by our little test case. Come over here, and when the character is standing right in front of the alien, it's going to try to grab it, which will be the end of the game. And when we're not in front, it should have gone back to the idling animation. Might have got a typo, but since it detects us in the front, what we'll have to do as far as gameplay is we'll have to sneak up behind the aliens and hit them from behind to fit the storyline. Why did that not go back? I guess it didn't empty the collider, maybe? But I just realized that this would probably work. We'll set is grabbing to true, which will start running that grabbing animation, and then is idle is true, but we can only switch back at the end of this animation. Let's see if just doing that will work. So it's idling, and we walk over here, tries to grab us, and when we step away, it's still running. So I need to do some quick debugging. I'll do that with the video paused and be right back with whatever's going wrong with that animation. Oh, okay. So that didn't take too long to debug, and I'll go ahead and go through what I did. So first thing I did was just print out what's in that collider so we can see. I did add that else back in there to get to the logic it originally was, and then kind of ran that. Um, Watching the output over here so we can see when it is. So it sees the character, but when we back away, it's null again. So it's not switching back. So I quickly jumped over to the uh, alien, checked to make sure the right condition was each one. So it should go back on is idle. Um, uh, is grabbing, is idle should go back. And right at this point, I noticed that I did something silly. Uh, is grabbing is still set to true. So that every time through is grabbing comes true. So it's constantly transitioning back to the is grabbing one, which it can transition from idle to grabbing immediately, and it's just constantly doing that. So this needs to be false. Um, we have two booleans, so it's not just one boolean measuring it. So uh, when we're done grabbing, we need to make sure and make that false. So just a silly little mistake for the bug there. Oh, I'll get rid of that print statement. And now, when we run over here, if we get too close or the aliens catch up with us once they're moving, they'll reach out and grab us. We hit game over. And if we're not standing right in front of them, they won't be able to grab them, which also gives us our player action, and that we'll have to come up behind and hit them with the stick. Right now, our only action is jump. So we'll fix the character animation so we can hit them and try that next. There's also a spaceship animation we need to bring in. Spaceship thing, it kind of shows in our, it's part of the scenery. We'll do some stuff with that and some more stuff to go, but I will see you in the next video where we will update the character so that it hits the alien with the stick and make sure that that works. And notice how we're just doing a small piece at a time. We're not trying to get all of the alien functionality in at once. You want to break it down into small pieces. Just deal with a single line, a single function. Break that single function down into single lines. It's programming, so you can think about machines, computers. You've probably heard about ones and zeros. All the machine is capable of. The machine can only do one small thing, or it can do nothing. So you always want to break it down into small pieces and just deal with a small piece at a time. So next up is our character. In order to make the game playable, we need to fight back against the aliens, which in our case means hit them with the stick. I'll see you in the next video.